20 minutes extra, so we give you
Yeah.
a sign at 25.
We need to stop a bit before 30, I think.
Then I'd get started if I was you.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the live stream team, and then we're gone.
Live stream, okay. Where's your video? Where's your webcam?
This is my. Yeah? Can we start? Okay. All right, let's get started. If you could please just sit down, we'll get going. I hope you are as excited as I am to be here. I'm just giving you a few more seconds so that everyone can get connected with the headsets. I would like to start this talk and this Odoo experience with something a bit different. I will start with a very personal anecdote, something that for real happened to me. Let's give a few more seconds to the ones that are grabbing their headsets. All right, let's get going. So this is something that happened to me for real. I will tell you the story. It happened a few weeks ago. This is the story of my date. So I met someone online, and you know how it goes. We chatted a bit to see like, is the other person a psychopath? No, then let's meet in real life. Then we decided to meet and to go for a drink. And we started chatting, and the conversation was pretty good. We were having fun, getting to know each other, and everything was going really well. But you know, I had to go to a party after. It was the birthday of one of my friends. So I was checking the time and seeing that my time was running out. And if you've been to a date, you know that the end of a date is sort of an awkward moment, because it's like, do I offer that person to see them again? Is it going well? Did I do well, etc.? And just at that moment, when I was very stressed, awkward, and embarrassed, something terrible happened. But first, my name is Luc Nellis, and I'm here to talk about how you can create products that your users will love to use. This is the QR code so that you can ask your questions. We'll go through those afterwards. But first, let's go back to my date. Because indeed, something terrible happened, something so terrible that I decided to come here and to talk about it. What happened was this. This is what happened to my date, and which made it really awkward. Because you see, we wanted to leave, but we had to pay for our drinks, and there were no waiter around. There was nobody around. And we looked, and as I was getting late for the birthday party, and we saw that on the table there was this very weird device. This is a real picture that I took myself. And it tells quite a story, right? First, you see on the bottom right, there's a button to call the waiter, and it's broken because I think people pushed on it a million times, way too fast and way too hard. Second, there's a cancel button, which cancels I don't know what. It cancels something. And there's this bill button. So after a really awkward moment with me trying to leave a date with someone trying to let me leave, we found the bill button and we pushed it. Guess what? Nothing happened, because apparently this device doesn't give you any feedback that something's happening. So we kept looking at each other very awkwardly, wondering if something had happened. And after a few minutes, we actually did receive the bill. The waiter came and gave us the bill. And the idea is that when you push this button, it lights up a light behind the counter, so behind the bar. So as a customer, you have no idea that it did something. Maybe that's why people broke the bell button. But anyway, this was very terrible. And this is an experience that marked me, you know, and so much that I decided to talk about it here. Because bad products and bad experience, they leave a mark, right? People remember about it. Which is a bad news and also a good news, because the counterpart is that if you provide users with a good experience, then you'll get the opposite. They will be very happy, they will remember about it, and so if you manage to get a product people love to use, they will love it, they will use it, they will come back to it. So of course, the $1,000,000 question is like, how do you do it? How do you manage to build a product that your users will love? Because here, what we'll look through is a technique to do it, and it's to make sure that when people use your product, they feel empowered. They feel like a better version of themselves, right? So not like me at the end of my date, feeling very awkward and vulnerable and having no help from this very weird device, but instead, when they use your product, you want them to feel like they are superheroes. They are a better version of themselves. They are super fast, super cool, and super good, right? So how do we do it? This is a framework I came up with. I had 3 O's. So I said, let's call it the Odoo model because there's 3 O's in Odoo. We'll talk about onboarding, optimizing, and ownership. Let's get through those. The first one is onboarding. This is very crucial in the user experience. I've done entire talks on that topic. The idea is you want to make sure that when they get started, you use it as fast as possible because they don't let you, they don't give you a lot of time. That your users are able to see first how your product works and what it does, right? So you want to get there as fast as possible, as good as possible. A metaphor would be, well, they are lost, right, in the water, and you want to get them on board, right? That's the only way you can make sure that with the relatively short time that they're giving you, they will get, okay, this product is for that, and I love it, and it will make me better, I feel empowered using it. A good example, for example, are the tours that you see in Odoo. You know those pink bubbles that follow you around and that show you a few things to do? Well, when we watch new users test Odoo, we can see that it does help them discover at least the basics. If you've never used a CRM, it's really nice to have those steps to see, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, this is what a CRM is about. Here are some other examples. I'm not going to give like a lesson, I'm more going to show things that we did for this new version so that maybe you can get inspired for your own products or apps. You've seen the new page tool, right, for the website app. Fabien just showed it a few hours ago. This is a classic example of making sure the onboarding is very smooth. If you're creating your first new website page, unless you're a website designer, it's going to be hard, it's going to feel awkward, you're not sure that what you're doing is right, maybe it won't look that good. What we do with that is that we get the user from 0% to like 60, 70, maybe 80% of the job. So with that, the users know, well, Odoo first can do nice pages, those are pretty cool, plus I can use that and I can just customize it and get going. So instead of having the very painful first steps of, okay, where do I start? Do I put a cover? Which color, etc.? We go from 0 to 60 or 70, and from there you just get it rolling. Another example also showed in the keynote, knowledge templates. So as product manager, one of the issue we have with knowledge is to make sure that people understand that this is not just a text pad, right? This is not a Word document, this is not just a block note, this is way more. You can do a lot of things with knowledge. But when people test it, they don't realize it. And so again and again, during user tests, people would say, oh yeah, it's just a text pad. And we would feel really sad about it. So what we do with templates is we provide first some templates that maybe you can use like this per se, but it's quite unlikely. What we want really is first that you see the potential of what knowledge could be for your own company, what you could be doing with it later on, and also, well, a few features that maybe you didn't know about, but that are interesting. For example, here, you see that in a knowledge article, you can actually embed some lists. This is not something you can do in a Word pad. This is something you can do because you are inside knowledge, which lives inside Odoo, and you can get way further, right? So again, this idea of onboarding, we bring them later on. But onboarding is also about intuitiveness. It's not only tutorials and tours, etc. So this picture, I find it very scary. Those are the command wheels for a submarine, for a German submarine during World War I, which means that some people were under the water and they had the captain shout at them things in German and they had to find which wheel to turn to actually manage to get the result they wanted. I think they had some colors and numbers, but still this is clearly an interface that's going to bring some problems or at least some stress. So everything we do in Odoo should be way more intuitive, and the same goes for your product. if it looks like this, you may be doing something wrong. So onboarding is all about getting started right, helping your users for the first few steps, and then making sure your system is intuitive. And then there's this idea of optimizing. So this is the second O of our model. This idea of optimizing is when people use your product, they need to feel like they're doing the job better. So one of the slogans that we have here at Odoo is help people do more in less time. Well, this is where we have to work on that, because if people, when they use Odoo, they feel like they can do more in less time, they will feel like superheroes and they will like using Odoo. A few examples of things we change in Odoo. Some are really big, some are really small. For example, here, we just switch the default order of the users so that by default, when you open a field to assign someone, you are always the first in that list. It feels dumb, but it means that whenever you're assigning yourself, which is usually the case if you work in the traditional Kanban methodology, you're always first, and so you don't need to scroll around. And it's a small frustration that we remove, but a small frustration that happens again and again and again and again. So we just take a guess that you're probably going to assign yourself, and from there, we make people way happier. Another example, when you pick different records in Odoo, sometimes it's not clear which one you should pick, right? And we used to have a search more button that would only appear if you have a lot of records, because the idea is like, we can display them all here, let's put a button. But actually, the button is really helpful also if you want to compare what you have in mind, right? So those are the two options. You see here you have the full list, so you have full access to the information. You don't need to open a new tab, do some research, etc. It's again a very small change, it's just a button that we show, but it really makes the experience way better because users feel in control. Again, filling up pads, writing things is usually very boring and tedious. So what we do is we let you prepare some templates in Knowledge, and then with just a click, you push it to your document. This is a bigger feature, and it's something that will make users save a lot of time, meaning they will be able to focus on what matters, like calling the customers, doing the follow-ups, etc. Something else that you could think about, batching operations. So if the users had to do things one by one, it's probably going to be annoying for them. It's going to take a lot of time and feel a bit like dumb. What you want to do instead is to offer the option of doing everything at once. So instead of restoring knowledge articles one by one, we let people just tick them all and batch this operation. And then this is going further down the line, but you've seen there are some users that really want to master your product, to really go very deep in how it works. You've seen how Fabien, how happy he gets when he plays around with the shortcuts. There are users like that really want to make sure that they really master it and get things done as fast as possible. So if you provide a way to really master your product, for example, those keyboard shortcuts, those people will first become very powerful users. They will probably really get in love with your product and then be strong advocates of, well, I'm using this product, I can create a quotation in 3 seconds, and it's just super great. Again, something you could think about. The goal is thus, we want to make sure people can do more in less time. And then ownership. So ownership is the last O of our model here. Ownership is all about taking advantage of what is called the IKEA effect. The IKEA effect is a sort of a bias that we all have. The idea is if I give you a chair, you will say like, yeah, whatever, it's a chair. But if I give you the pieces to build that chair and you build it, afterwards you will love that chair because you are sort of part of it. You participated to its creation, and all of a sudden you have some sort of relationship with this chair. That's what we try to do with the idea of ownership. For example, things we do in Odoo, we let people reorder the icons of the dashboard. Again, not a huge change for the business, but for the users, it's probably a big change because it means they can create their own dashboard, they can organize things as they want, and all of a sudden it's not some software, it's their own dashboard with however things they want to see, right? Another example, you want to store some information on employees. but you are not a developer, you're not an admin, you're just an HR manager. Well, what we allow you to do with properties is just that. You can create fake fields on the fly, and all of a sudden, you can just fill in all the information that you want. Those do not require code or asking a manager or anything. If you need something, you just do it. It's your own system, and you feel like a superhero when you're doing this. Yeah, this one is pretty interesting. So when you're product designers, we tend to come up with a lot of rules, like users can do this, but not that. Some rules are good because it means we keep the product simple and the code simple as well, but some rules are just made up because at some point we decided to do so. And this is a good example. We had decided at some point that for a specific type of appointment type, we could only have one user assigned. And there was no other reason than just someone deciding that at some point. When the user sees that, for him it's quite frustrating, right? It's blocking for no good reason except that the computer said, no, you won't do that because. Once you identify those barriers and you remove them, all of a sudden you put users in control, but also you make sure that you open your product to a lot of business cases that maybe you didn't have in mind, but that now can be supported. Same here, so this is something that for people that don't know Odoo is a bit shocking, but usually in Odoo we always say the user is right. The user is in the workshop, he knows what he's doing. If he wants to take a product, it's because the product is just right there, so let's let the user do it. The same here. I'm trying to book a court with a schedule that's a bit weird. If I'm working on a very rigid software, it would tell me this is forbidden, it's outside of the available hours, you will never be able to do it. But in Odoo, we prefer to keep it flexible because it's their system. If they're doing it, they probably have a good reason. So we're just gonna raise a warning and say, well, just so you know, maybe you're a bit tired or maybe you're distracted, this is outside of the usual available hours. But if you're really sure, you can always do it. We do that a lot in Odoo, and it's also why some people that, for example, are managing stock, etc., can really get going with the business, because there's nothing more frustrating than a computer telling you no for no reason and telling you like the product that you have in your hand does not exist, is somewhere else, you cannot use it. So once you see those and you put the power in the hands of the user, then it's much better. So ownership, all about letting people customize your product so that they can make it their own and feel like it's sort of their lovely chair they built. And flexible, whenever you see something that's maybe could be removed because it's just something you decided or something that the system would have decided, if you manage to smooth those edges, you get something that's way better to use and where users will feel in control. Quick recap. So those are mainly ideas in case you're brainstorming on how to make sure your users feel empowered when they use your product. First, onboarding, check the first steps. Have a look at if you can provide shortcuts to the value. So instead of going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, if you manage to go from 0 to 70, all of a sudden the product gets much better. And show the value as fast as possible during this phase. What is your product about? Then once they adopt it and start working with it, try to make sure that they feel like they're more efficient when they work with your software or your product. For example, by taking guesses of what they're trying to do, by showing as much information as possible, making sure they can do things fast, for example, by batching, or for some really advanced users, some way to really do things really, really fast. And then ownership, we just talked about it, customization, IKEA effects, removing those design barriers that shouldn't really exist and put the users in charge. Usually they know better. After all, it's the system. Well, as a way to conclude, I would say what we do is not mathematics, it's not chemistry. You cannot be certain that a change that you want to do or that you did actually works. Just like this. The only way you can know it works is if you test it. So I would advise whenever you are considering a change or implementing a change, test it again and again and again and again. We do that a lot with Odoo. For example, I'm in touch with HR, and when we get new employees, before they start the training, we use them as sort of guinea pigs, and we ask them to try the software. And they haven't seen the e-learning videos, etc. So they're brand new, and we get a ton of feedbacks of, okay, this guy is around 25, he's a developer, so he's good with computers, but still, he didn't manage to do this and this and that, so those steps should be like improved. And it's only through that feedback that really you can be sure, by iterating again and again and again, that you're getting somewhere. All right, that's it for now. If you have any questions, you see we have a QR code or the URL of the pad here. We'll maybe just wait a few seconds if someone is writing something, and then otherwise you will be freed. No question?
No YouTube questions so far.
Okay, and on the pad? Okay, I guess we can.
Maybe give them 1 minute to
Okay.
connect, because it was the first time that we saw.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe I was very clear. Can happen. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. I hope you learned a few things, and I hope I'll see you around. Thank you.